to know. So let me get started on the formal YouTube intro, and we can pretty much take it from there. All right. Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. And today you are in for an exclusive interview. We have the one, the only rapper, producer, legend, Alchemist. He has come through with I guess like a very small sliver of time in his busy schedule after dropping so many of the biggest projects of this year in the rap world. And we're so happy that you could come through, man. Thanks.
I appreciate it, man. It's cool to be here.
All right. So look, man, you've been on an amazing run this year between Haram, Bo Jackson, RBF6, This Thing. You had that special Carry the Fire project that dropped as well that not a lot of people were expecting. I'd like to try to go into, a lot of these and get into some other stuff as well. Maybe starting with Bo Jackson, since that's kind of the latest that's come out in the midst of all this.
Yeah.
To sort of just like ask a basic question, considering how much you've been kind of building this momentum with Baldi as of late. And also considering all the other artists, who you've worked with over the years as well, like what keeps that working relationship between the both of you so tight and so consistent where, you're both kind of coming back to each other again and again and again, because, I'm sure you have your pick of who you could be working with, but like, you guys share, I guess, like an artistic kinship together. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things, but I do think, one, in this business, like through your journey of doing music, like some people you connect with and you just make music, other people you build with beyond that and kind of build more of a relationship as a friend or, beyond just working in the studio. I think Baldi was definitely that when I first linked with them. And we fell out of the loop for a while, not even for any reason. It's just I don't even know why it happened, but Chuck, I give a lot of credit to Chuck English. Big Chuck, he was the one who connected us in the first place. That's his cousin. And he hit me up and was like, you guys need to get back in. And the timing was actually really good because I had been kind of doing what I was doing with ALC Records, kind of building my stuff up. Prior to that, we had come out on Decon. And, so now I had like a more of a situation. And when I linked back up with him, I forgot how much I loved him because Baldi is he's so funny, but he's so smooth. Like, his persona is very like unique. And I feel like it's even also the tone of his voice, like the vocal register that he's in is like similar to, in no comparison, but to somebody like Prodigy, like that the tone it is as a vocal tone, it's an instrument where I feel like I'm able to match to what he does very well for me. And as a producer, what the most gratifying is to get a rapper who you feel really kills and does justice to your beat. Working with a big name artist, amazing. It's the greatest thing, but fuck all that. Like, of just stripping that away, just having a rapper like a Billy Woods, who's one of my favorites. Like, when you get a verse back from him and it's A1, that's the best feeling as a producer. So I feel like when I work with Baldi, every time when he's in the booth, as he's laying it, it's like I'm hearing it like it's a song already. And so he just has that quality that I feel like we're good working together. And then he also trusts me. Like we rumble it out a lot in the studio, but I think in the end, also because I have the studio and he leaves, so I get to pull my tricks in the end. But we fight over a lot of like creative differences. But in the end, he kind of trusts me to make the movie. Same with Freddie and the other guys I work with. Where in the end, they let me because I really enjoy making the album as much as I enjoy making the beats these days, like the whole soundscape. So I think that's why me and Baldi, work good together and why I stick with him. And I feel like we could keep going and doing more.
That kind of leads me into another question that I wanted to ask. Like, as far as the creative process, especially when you are collaborating with another artist, to what degree do you feel like you do your best to tailor whatever it is you're doing to the specific person that you're working with? Because especially in the case of Haram, as somebody who's been listening to and loving and positively reviewing Billy stuff and Arm& Hammer stuff like for years at this point, the beats that you made for that project felt very specific for you in terms of them like being a little spacier, maybe not so heavy on the drums, you know, maybe a little more abstract. And they also felt very specific to the kind of vibe that you get off an Arm & Hammer record as well. So, you know, going into a project like that, or with any artist, like, you know, how much is it in the forefront of your mind that like, I got to get it to sound a certain way so it fits this guy or this duo or this person?
I think about like the RZA and when his incredible run with Wu-Tang, and you think about like, I remember seeing an old interview, he was talking about Method Man. When I make beats for Method Man, I make them violent. When I make beats for like he was basically describing each guy in the crew and how he produces a little different for each one of them. So when you really go back and listen to all those first albums, there's like a couple qualities that are unique to each record that give it a certain sound. And it all fell under that same umbrella, but it was like, I always admired that. And I felt like, all right, well, if I'm working with an artist, I want to try to make something here's an opportunity to go outside of my normal comfort zone. I know what I'm good at for doing. I can do it on my own. Now, if I bring in some other energy, I kind of want to let it affect me, to inspire me to do something different. You know, like when I worked back in the day with Dilated Peoples, it was 4 of us every time. Me, Evidence, Babu, Raka, all 4 heads at the table choosing every decision. So it was like this round table head of people that always was like, I felt was good, because if it got through that filter, it was like, it got to be decent. And it's like Arm & Hammer, you know, Tebe Earl, he's like my brother, my damn near my A&R, you might as well call him, because he just puts me up on everything. And he was really listening to Arm & Hammer and their stuff over here for a while, and kind of my ear perked up and I started noticing the music. And it was that Paraffin video. Yeah. And how it was made, and it was all glitchy and there was these effects. And I'm like, that shit really intrigued me at the moment, whatever was going on in rap, I don't know. But that, I remember seeing that in its entirety, how it was put together with a bunch of different songs, some live performances, some effects. And I'm like, you were already hip. See, I was late to their shit. So once I got to it, that was kind of my entry point. Then I went back and I listened to, you know, Today I Wrote Nothing. That shit fucked me up. I was like, or all the Lucids, you know, just their whole catalog, which everybody should go check if you haven't.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I fell down that fucking rabbit hole for a while, and was like, it inspired me at that moment, because, you know, I'm knee deep in my Griselda shit. I'm, you know, Rock, Marcy, and so I kind of wanted to flex a different muscle. Freddie, you know, I just came off of Alfredo, and I was like, this shit would be dope. I reached out to them, Billy first, and I was just like telling them, like, I want to work with you guys. I wanted to work with Billy, and he proposed. Woods, by the way, he'll get mad if I call him. I want to work with Woods, by the way, and he considered, you know, he threw out there, why don't we do an Arm & Hammer project? And I was like, hell yeah, because I really like both of them. And when we first linked, I think they thought that I was going to do beats that were, or at least Lucid, who told me like, damn, I thought you were going to give us more something like we might have give West Side Gun or something of that lines. And I told him, not really. I was inspired by what you guys were doing. Right. And I felt like I could do a different drum pattern, or I can do something that's a little different than what the MCs I'm working with. It just gave me some type of right in my head, like a pass to do something a little more left, like Pepper Tree, which you know what I'm saying? I don't even know how Woods even caught that one to rap on it. Because I was really just throwing left field pitches at him. And it made for a really great record. And of course I had Tebe here, who was listening to the whole shit and was like, nah, you guys got one, you know, because he was like my specialist. So yeah, it was fun.
No, I think that's a testament to your ear, that you could come into their catalog late and just be like, you know, not only captivated by it, but in your own way, like artistically complimented as well. No, I'm just like really hyped to hear that. And it was such a great record. So
appreciate it. It was fun. It was fun, man. Those guys, they're so cool. We got a show coming up, I think this week. Okay. Real soon we have some shows coming up. So yeah, I love those guys. We did a show already in Central Park, and that was fun too.
All right. So much to try to get to. I mean, since you reference Earl, let's talk about the the recent EP that you dropped that features him and a few other artists. There's something about Earl's music, Navy blues music, to a degree, an artist, Mike, as well, who I'm sure you're familiar with, Pink Sifu as well. It seems like when it comes to what a lot of people are calling abstract hip hop right now, you know, in its current state, it's being led by a lot of artists who are expressing more depressive themes in their lyrics, more drumless instrumentals or stripped back or minimal instrumentals. It has a really distinct vibe to it, but like nobody's quite, you know, defined it as a new genre or anything like that. And not that I'm expecting that to happen right now or for you to do that, but you know,
Right.
it is indicative of, I guess, like kind of a new sound, a new wave that a lot of artists and fans are listening to and are gravitating to. And as somebody who creatively is like in his own way involved in that wave and has been, you know, producing hip hop music for years and years and years now, like, you know, what do you think of this kind of newer sound, this new emotional mood coming from these artists? Like, you know, are you vibing with it personally, and what does it speak, you know, how does it speak to you personally as somebody who's been making hip hop for so long?
I mean, I love what's happening. Definitely. And this is kind of like what I was waiting for too, because I feel like I see the influence of a Ka or a Rock Marcy on the new generation of young guys. You're talking about Sage, you know, Navy Blue. These guys are young, you know, early 20s. You got to add Mavi to that too, you know, or Zaloopers, or, you know, all these guys is like, to me, I saw kind of a thing going on. And it was, my entry point again was through Earl, because I met a lot of these guys through him, all of them really. And that was kind of my inspiration to do that EP as well. Yeah, this thing of ours.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like in your own way, you were almost like trying to encapsulate that sound in a moment for yourself.
It was happening, and a lot of it was happening over here at the studio, Maxo as well. Yeah. And it was like, at first when I saw everybody together, I was like, damn, this would be dope. I want to do a record, but it wasn't natural. It's me trying. So over time, we all recorded songs, and one day I kind of put together the songs. They were already in the computer. And I was like, you know what? This is what I wanted it to be anyways. And we have a part 2 coming, which features Mike and Mavi, Bruiser Brigade, Zaloopers, Vince. So it's like, it's a thing I've been like, I love seeing it, because I feel like, and I feel like, you know, whether the emo or depressing type lyrics are for me or not is really not. I feel like these kids doing their art at this time in their life. Yeah. So I kind of respect it. And I feel like if you give these guys time, how much I've seen Navy already develop from when he was early coming around here with Earl. It's insane. And I feel like some of this is snapshots, it's moments, but you know, as far as the sound, whether there's drums or not, I feel like these guys, they'll surprise you when they pull up on you, because they'll play you every style. They really have a mixture. And I think Pink Sifu is a good example too, because he can mix it up in any style. So, I mean, these guys, I got a lot of faith in all of them. And I feel like it's gratifying to see what all of us been doing, seeing like the young, because, you know, I'm old, you know, so to see young guys somehow what we're doing, a little bit of inspiration falling off into inspiring a younger generation. That's what we've all been waiting for. So yeah, anybody who's 20 or 25 and you like the shit that we're doing, beautiful. You know, I like to think that somebody like Baldi might be inspiring a young guy, you know what I mean, right now, who maybe in 4 years, he's nice. And he'll say, yeah, man, in 2000, you know, during the pandemic, I was listening to Baldi James and whatever else. So I love seeing what's going on right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, Sifu's an especially interesting case. We're going to do an interview with him next week, I believe, that I haven't announced yet. But he reinvents himself on every project. And, you know, his new one especially has been my favorite so far.
He's so good. And if you watch him on the booth when he raps, it's like performance art. Like he's the real deal. Yeah, Pink is the real deal, man. Shout to him. Yeah, that's my man.
All right. You know, speaking of like your production with some of these artists so far, I thought it would be funny to maybe ask you kind of a silly question, almost like in reference to your Twitter name, because like, you know, when you go on places like YouTube, there is a tight beat culture out there, you know, because any producer whose name is like, you know, worth searching, there's a so-and-so type beat and a so-and-so type beat and a so-and-so type beat. You know, it's like there's beats for days, you know, based on other people's sound. And
is that how You know you've made it if you have a tight beat. Like if you have a tight, does that mean you're like, yo,
it may be. So I mean,
I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's cool.
Sorry,
it's cool. But yeah, I mean, I guess I wanted to ask you, like, you know, considering what you were just saying about kind of applying your sound and doing your own thing with other artists' sounds and trying to, like, you know, do your best to almost in a way like serve creatively. You know, looking at your sound and your sound alone. You know, considering the type beat stuff, what would you say personally in your own mind makes an Alchemist type beat? What is an Alchemist type beat?
Fuck. Oh man, this is tough.
Because I mean, I don't know if you ask some random 18-year-old YouTube producer, maybe they have an idea. Maybe because since they're coming out with Alchemist type beats.
You know what? I've been through a lot of phases of production. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's different versions of a type beat. Right. Like if you could do a type beat that sounds like what I was doing for Jadakiss and Mobb Deep in the late 90s, early 2000s, if you're a certain age. Yeah. But if you're a young guy who just got hip to me through Earl, a type beat might be like something I'm doing with rock or the stuff we're doing, which is more empty.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know. I got to do more style so I could blur the line and just what the fuck is a type beat of mine? It's anything. Like, I don't know. I throw something else at them.
All right. Well, you know, to sort of like throw another wrench in the type beat question, you did have this, you know, this Carry the Fire project that dropped recently, which was almost like a conceptual, you know, soundtrack of sorts in a way that I believe was like in reference to the LA Olympics in the 80s, and it was super like synth heavy. You know, with the way that you're kind of composing, I mean, I would call them, you know, compositions, you know, almost more than beats to a degree.
Sure.
You know, what inspired this project, and is that sort of a direction or sound that you might see yourself embracing going forward on other endeavors?
Yeah, I'm always looking for like excuses to do something different. So this, for example, this is my brother's born and raised, my friend Sponto, his company. And we were always talking about doing a collaboration. So I was like, man, 84 Olympics was my first memories really of LA, like growing, like they were in Los Angeles. I just really have a vivid memories of that year. So I was like, let's do something themed by that. So we did some designs and then I'm like, you know what? I want to make some music. So I decided to do something that felt like it was just 80s themed and not your typical beat to rap to, because I always like, even when I did Israeli Salad, it was also like an excuse in my mind to make some beats that are not really for rapping, so I could make some tempos and rhythms that are not in my mind like for rapping, and I could go out of the box a little bit. So that was kind of what I did with that. And yeah, I mean, the next project I got coming is all keyboard, all synth entirely. And it's a score to a film by Jason Goldwatch that we did together. It's called Cycles. And I think it's real. It's an experiment I did a long time ago. I played all the shit and I don't even know how to play, but I think it came out really cool. And I'm like interested to see how people take to it. But you could put this in like a different category.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely not, don't expect a rap beat.
Well, it's literally a film score, like you said.
It is. It's weird. It's definitely me stepping out, trying to do something different, and we'll see how people take to it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to dropping it.
So it's like almost like more just synth layers and ambient soundscapes and that sort of thing.
That's it. That is literally it. It's just I literally made the score before we made the film. Actually, we did it backwards.
Oh, okay.
And then we made a film after. But yeah, it was just me with 2 weeks with this one shitty keyboard that I bought, and I just experimented for a couple of weeks because that's how it's like as creative. We get bored sometimes. And you drift off and do something else for a while. So that's this.
So, I mean, considering how prolific you've been already up until this year, like as far as 2021 goes, are you done? Or do you still like have some more stuff creeping around the corner, you know, before we're in 2022?
Ooh, I got some shit. Absolutely have things still brewing. Shit, it may roll over into 2022, depending on, you know, unforeseen elements, but I wish I could just share the computer. Sometimes I sit here and listen in, I'm like, damn, this sucks. I want to just share this with everybody right now, but that's part of the game, is knowing how to, I'm big on presentation. You know, I know we're in like the snippet culture and everybody, like, you got to play a little piece of your song and get everybody hype. And I get that, but I was always into like hiding out in a laboratory, you know, like assembling a bomb or something. And then when it pops up, it's like you get to hear it in its entirety. Wow, you know. So I know that's old fashioned, but I have some things that are still coming through the rest of the year. Yeah, damn, I don't know if I could spill all the beans like that, but I'm excited. I'll say that.
Okay. All right. I mean, so stuff coming up, stuff that's out. Another thing that's out that I got a lot of questions about was people want to know if, you know, the fans want to know if that album that you tweeted out, that secret record that's on YouTube somewhere, is that still out there? Nobody's still discovered it. Is that real?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything about it, man. So yeah, it's still just floating in the matrix.
And
it's pretty crazy.
Are there, is it just a solo project? Are there other artists on it as well, like features and stuff?
I can't really even say anything about it.
But it's
I've been sworn. But I've been sworn to just leave it alone. It was just it was just a one day of madness.
So it's literally still up on YouTube though, and people could listen to it if they want.
I don't know actually.
You don't know?
To be honest, I don't. At this point, I had to just let go of it. You know, it's one of those things as an artist to just move on.
Okay.
You know, the guy who like you know, an artist who just burns the studio down and is like, that's it.
Would somebody
that happen?
Is somebody else in control of whether it's on YouTube?
I have to erase. I can't. I don't even know. It's crazy. I really don't. I let go.
Okay, so
yeah, we're on to the next shit. But Earl's album is incredible. His album is done.
Earl's album. Okay.
He has an album that is done and it's incredible. Okay. And yeah, I'm excited about that.
Okay.
And I do have some work on there.
Okay. Well, that was another thing that a lot of fans have been asking about. So there is an Earl project that you're obviously deeply involved with or familiar with, and that's on the way?
Yes. And it's insane. And I think everybody will be happy. He's in his bag.
Okay.
As he should. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to sort of like tease toward in regards to that? I mean, the chat's going insane right now. They're really excited to hear about that news.
I think everyone will be happy. You know, but you know, Earl is always working. He's a master of his craft. So, you know, something gets cut all the time. When he decides to press the button, we'll see. But he's got loaded guns.
As far as vibe goes, is it sort of like more of a continuation of this wave we're hearing, sort of an extension of some rap songs, or something totally new?
I couldn't even describe it, man. I wouldn't even do a disservice to it. I have to let it just be what it is. But know that he's hard at work, and the magic is there.
Okay. All right. Well, I think chat's freaked out. That's probably enough info on that.
Chill out, chat.
Chat's freaked out. That's probably enough info on that front for now. I think that's everything. I think that's everything people need to know about that.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
I wanted to ask you a question about just like workload and creative process. And I couldn't think of a way to ask this question without, you know, doing too much of a long-winded build up to it. But, you know, just like follow me for a second, because recently there were those leaked texts that came out of Kanye's camp in regards to Donda, and engineers either being fired for showing up late or, you know, describing working for 33 hours in Pro Tools and passing out and so on and so forth. And it created a discussion among fans, you know, like, this is horrible, this is unnecessary, this is exploitation. And then there are other people saying like, but it's Kanye. Like, if I was in that situation, I'd do anything to work with Kanye. Like, and the record's got to be great. So of course, like, you've got to bust your ass until you're like nearly dead for the record to be good. And as somebody who has been making records for years, has made a lot of great records, and has probably also been like, you know, witness to albums that didn't come together well as well. Like in your experience, like, what makes a record good, and is working till you're nearly dead a part of that process? You know, is that a necessity for a work to be great, or are there other factors that are more important?
You know, they had diapers, those engineers. They had to wear diapers, is what I heard, in order to work around the clock.
What?
Just shit and keep it moving.
So you want to work with the whole studio?
You want to work with Ye or what?
The whole studio smelling like shit. The whole studio with multiple people shitting themselves.
Easy diapers. Hey, listen, some engineers will do it, man. It is Kanye.
You
It's the
couldn't
highest level of the
you
game.
couldn't just like pee in a bottle. You couldn't just like pee in a bottle though.
Hey man, do what you got to do. But if you walk away from that fucking board, you're out of here. Now I'll say, listen, Kanye's incredible. He has a method to his madness.
Yeah.
It works clearly. But I feel like I'm a fan of I love grand, I love great, but I like peaks and valleys. And I do feel like when something is overcooked, it doesn't taste good. So you could be overproduced and undercooked at the same time. I mean, like overcooked and still not have that like a lot of people, a big production, but it still sounds not so like I don't know. Sometimes you see these production credits and it's like 15 people on it, right?
Yeah. And then you hear it after the fact and you're like, this doesn't sound like 15 people worked on it.
Or the fact that it is 15 names on it maybe makes it feel like nobody was really invested in it entirely because everybody had to play their part to do something. And you get this grand production that is amazing in a lot of ways, but it's music. We listen to it, we press play. So it's tricky because I'm a fan. Like I could say what I want to say, but I think what I do speaks the most. So like I'm a fan of lead by example, or like fuck it, show what you want to do. I put it this way: I grew up. I was inspired by Premier, Pete Rock. These guys were one man machines.
Sure.
Like they did everything. They went and found records. Like I've gone, hunting for records with some of my favorite producers. Like this is the whole aspect of what we do in one. I think it is something I always looked up to. So, and collaborating is amazing also. Like there's some chances I had to work. I did a record with Fred Wreck and a couple other producers in Dre's camp, and it ended up becoming a single for Anderson .Paak. So that was one day of me going over to the studio at Dre's studio, because M was in town, and it was like I went over there and I saw Pac and Fred, and it was literally one day of me leaving my studio. So I know the value of collaborating, and I think it's dope, but I do think, don't overcook the shit. You know what I'm saying? In the end, you got to listen to it. And that's why I like making albums, because you could take a lot of like simple things, and the way you glue them together can make one great, interesting listen. So instead of busying up every little song, maybe each piece plays a bigger listen and making a play. That's how I feel about it. But some of that stuff is just not for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I accept it, and I also respect it for what it is too, because we're artists. We make art. How am I going to, try to like, oh, that's no good, that's your art? Like, respect. You know what I mean? But we all have a different way, the way we want to communicate through our music.
Yeah. Look, even if you are a Kanye level artist who's making songs that do have like those 15 producer credits, it's really like, no matter who's working on it, it's on you at the end of the day to make sure that as an entire work, it sounds together, And
I'll say Kanye does a great fucking job of that, because his albums are, he's the foreman.
His albums are cohesive.
Yes. So if he uses a lot of different people to put it together, you're still very much respect worthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then all those, and you're also talking about just dealing with all the guys who work with him are the top of the line artists. I mean, creative people. The musicians that he has in his team, I know they're the best, amongst others, but he did. So you're going to get a A1 product in the end.
I mean, but it does seem like, at least from your own personal preferences and creative output, you're more of a testament to the older way of doing things and being just like more in control from just like a personal level.
Yeah, because I'm stubborn. I'm kind of a control freak, and I feel like I can put my touches into it and do what I want to, and that's enough. Sometimes I bring people in. I collaborate with Beat Butcher sometimes. He's amazing. Anytime I get with him and he adds elements, it just lifts the records up. Sometimes you bring a live bass guy in, and you take out the bass line you played on the MP and they replay it. And, but I always like to keep it. I like to drift out of what I do, but try to keep it still within a style. And it makes me think of like when Dipset came out and the Heat Makers started using those 32 hi-hats and a lot of the stuff that was going on with 3-6 Mafia or some of the crunker stuff that was happening in a different place. And they were allowing some of the stuff that was happening to influence them. Then they mixed it with the soul records and it had a sound. And so I feel like it's good to allow some of the new stuff to come in, but I always try to do my take on it. So I could be, so if you find out I did it, you'll be like, okay, I didn't expect that, but now I can hear it. I see it, you know? So that's my take on letting the new stuff influence you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's certainly important. And, you know, at the same time, like guys like Griselda are a testament to the fact that there are some kind of older classic sounds and styles and vibes and approaches to lyricism that there's always going to be an audience for. You know what I mean? Like the moment it maybe falls out of frame or an artist who used to represent it isn't maybe translating to the newer generation, there's going to be somebody who comes through to sort of like carry that torch in a way.
It's at the core of this. It gets further and further away, but rap is what rap is. You can put words to it, but it's being a good rapper is still king. That's why Jadakiss stood on that stage and he is like the best rapper is Jadakiss right now, because he literally did what all of us were taught to do, like rap good on stage, like say your rhymes with conviction, care about the craft. You know, that's still at the core of this shit. So all the best guys are that. And I include Thug and you know, those guys in it too, and Future and certain guys who they care about their craft too. I don't want people to think I'm just in the style that I pay attention to everything, but I do think that caring about the craft is still at the core of this shit. So if you have that built into your cachet, because somebody like Mavi is that. Like Mavi is really dope to me. He's a young guy, but he cares about his craft, you know, as far as rapping or being expressive with his art. So that'll always matter, you know. Brownsville Ka, you know what I mean? Yeah. Billy, Elucid Woods, Rock Marcy, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that sort of makes me want to ask you, as somebody who's been, you know, doing what you've been doing for so long and have, you know, kind of watched hip hop from a, you know, creative peak reach like this commercial zenith, you know, where it's like topping the charts in every direction. Do you feel like, though, we're at a point where I guess like, you know, hip hop has almost transcended itself in a way, and some artists are not so much making rap music as much as they're making pop music, you know, just like pop records, but they just kind of have the aesthetic of a rap record?
Yes, absolutely. And I think what you're hitting on is the fact that the rap music became the most popular music.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the line got blurred.
Yeah. It's almost like that was bound to happen the more popular it got.
I didn't see it coming, but now when you zoom out, you know, hindsight is 2020, you can kind of see the trajectory and where it went and how it kind of developed, and certain things broke the door down. You know, something melodic is always going to win. And I think there's a very commercial style of rap, and it's except I think it's just a big arena. It's kind of weird that it is all the same genre. It used to feel like rap was all in one arena. You know, like, well, we knew everything that was going on unless it was a regional thing somewhere, you know, in the early days of the Source magazine or, you know, shit like that, where you kind of knew everything. Nowadays, like, you might find out about an artist and he's already platinum, you know, and he's selling out fucking arenas. And you're like, wait a minute, how did I not know about this? It's just so big of an art form now that, and I think that's why it's cool now, because it's giving room for all of us to flourish and create our art. And it's being recognized on a scale of everything, little by little. It took time, but I think people are starting to recognize what it is. Because I feel like, you know, there was a movement, and a movement doesn't happen by planning, getting together and going, yo, let's do this movement. It's kind of like, to me, it happens when everybody's inspired by each other. And so everybody's trying to one up each other. Like in the 90s, what was doing great with rappers, if you talk to any of them, they'll tell you, man, I was inspired by Slick Rick, or I was inspired by Cypress Hill, and we heard their shit and we wanted to. All the producers at the time told me they were all trying to compete with each other. And I feel like that's how a movement happens. It's not really a movement. It's just a lot of good shit happening. And I think there's more good than bad. I love what Danny's doing with Bruiser Brigade. I love JUS. I like Bruiser Wolf. Fat Ray, Loopers, like they're doing some shit now. I've been paying attention to that. There's like so many lanes that can flourish now. So yeah, I'm happy with where it is.
You know, I think this is something we can keep diving into, but one avenue I want to kind of go into, maybe to sort of like dig into this question a little further. You know, I think Tyler could even be a point of discussion here. Tyler's an example of somebody who, you know, especially like in the case of Igor, like so many tracks off of that record are pop records. But the thing is, like, you wouldn't say that in a way that denigrates the record. Like, obviously, the album is very artful, and you know, you're talking about like the spirit of competition in hip hop, and I think Tyler like embodies that on his new record. You know, there's definitely like some really aggressive and competitive tracks on, you know, his new LP. But you know, speaking specifically about Igor, like, you know, what do you think about artists of Tyler's, I guess, caliber who are deciding at some point in their catalog, you know, I'm not so much feeling this vibe. I'm going to make so much of I'm going to make kind of a pop record, kind of a soul record. And it's a concept about how sad I am about this whole relationship situation. And I'm going to do it not to impress anybody, not to challenge anything, just for the art of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that alone, like, you know, do you feel like that's kind of, I guess, an encouraging sign for rap music, that you have sort of key and very influential artists out there who are just like, you know, I'm just going to kind of detour and do my own weird conceptual thing over here, and if it works, it works?
Yeah, I do. I think whenever I see that, I think it's a good sign. And, you know, when it comes to creating as an artist, you can only do what's in you, you know, and if that's what was in him, you know, like so many times I've had opportunities to do something, and if it wasn't in me, it's like, I can't, I'm no good. I'm not really a worker. I do I'm stubborn. I have to like kind of zone out and do my creative shit. So it's like, whenever you see an artist go off like that and kind of go off the path of what's popping, because you got to think, like, you know, I've watched their whole shit, and it's like amazing, because for so many years he was just dominant as a icon and like a cultural icon, but didn't really have hit records. You know, him and Rocky. Like, I saw them just take over the world, and it was like, damn, but they're not the most commercial musically. They're the most influential, you know, and over time we're just seeing, you know, Tyler hit that and get the Grammy and all that. It was like, yeah, see, you stay down, you know what I mean? You stuck to your guns, because, you know, so that there was an argument prior to that, like his music wasn't like commercial, so to speak, you know, and it's like, what do you say to that? But it wasn't even like he tried, in my opinion. And then now come back around, he wanted to rap, because he even told me, you know, I was hearing what Freddie are doing, or West Side and them, and, you know, he's at his core, he's an MC. So, you know, that's always going to come back, you know, to rapping good, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely, I agree with everything that you just said. And it's kind of you know, funny at this point to see 10 years on, you know, like post the explosion of Odd Future, where, you know, it's worth reminding people that, like, when Odd Future first came on the scene, when Rocky first came on the scene, like, they, you know, they had their buzz and they had their audiences, but like, as far as, you know, the old school hip hop journalist vanguard, they weren't taking them seriously, you know, as serious as they should have. And now, as far as like, you know, when you think of hip hop just as an abstract concept now in 2021, like, those are some of the first names that you go to. Those are the names that are leading the pack. Those are the names that are literally influencing all of the up and coming artists right now. And, you know, in your own mind, as somebody who's been doing this for so long, do you feel like that's creatively, in a way, like an upset?
For who?
You know, almost like turning over the way that things used to be. I mean, like, you know, I guess like an upset in the same way that in a sports, you know, competition, like, you know, somebody's down a few points just in the last quarter, and then all of a sudden, you know, they come out ahead, and, you know, they win at the end of it.
Yeah, I think it's always a W when you stay down and you know, your plan works. But, you know, all these guys, it's been 10 years now, you know, Schoolboy, Action, Earl, these are all like my brothers, and I've seen them stay in this business and just get bigger. And you know, these are the guys that I made connections with as my second phase. You know, my phase one was like Mobb Deep and Dilated, you know, and so meeting all these guys was like very key for me, you know, and seeing them all kind of build their world in this rap market, because nobody knows where shit's going. You know, you never really know where things are going. So yeah, I love seeing all the guys that I'm down with do good. That's like my favorite thing. Watching Griselda do their shit, watching Marcy just fucking build his empire since, you know, when we were doing Do-Rag Dynasty album, I remember back then, and I remember seeing his album cover and like, man, you know, Marsburg. And so it's like, it's been so much good stuff that's happened in all these years that I feel like we're all playing our part. You know what I mean? We're all playing our part because the game, it's big. I like everything, but I feel like we have to play our part to do what we do.
So to throw a few fan questions in here, there are some people asking about you know, more Freddie collabs, especially considering like how great Alfredo came out. Do you guys feel like you should have got the Grammy over King's Disease? Do you think you should have got that Grammy that time?
I wouldn't have been mad if they gave it to us, but I pretty much felt like they were going to give it to Nas.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of in the bag. But if you guys did a second, do you think you'd be likely to get another nom?
Shit, I don't know, man. If Royce got it, I'd have been happy too. If Jay Elect got it, you know, it was that whole trip was a cool experience. It was fun. I felt like the right thing would be for Nas to get it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to say I lost to Nas.
Yeah.
You know, like that's great. You know, let's go. But yeah, I mean, salute to him and Hit Boy. That was just a great, fun time. You know, I was texting Hit Boy around that time too. Like, man, I thought I had this year in the bag, and you kicked my ass at the end of the year. Like that's my man. He's, you know what I mean. Definitely, we inspire each other. So, you know, I was happy.
It was a good record, but in a way, and maybe this is something that you could speak to as well. I mean, a lot of artists in the hip hop and the R&B community and just the Black community in general have, you know, been pointing out like these obvious inconsistencies and hypocrisies when it comes to like award shows and, you know, giving shine to artists of color who like are clearly, you know, making better product in some cases. You know, in a way that Grammy, while it was deserved, it also felt like to me like, you know, in a way we should give Nas a Grammy now because he's had so many fucking classics under his belt, which as far as like the industry went, just went unacknowledged. So now we have to almost like make up for that after the fact, you know?
I mean, I'm sure he'll take that.
Oh,
I'm sure he'll say, hey, I'll take that. That's good. I know what you're saying. Yeah. And you know, that's possible, but I wouldn't want to
diminish the quality of King's Disease because it is a good record.
That's how I say I wouldn't want to take away from the work that they did. Yeah. But then if that played into it, we should, because Nas is, come on, he's Nas. Yeah. So and none of us love him more because he got a Grammy. We already love him to death. Yeah. We never, you know what I mean? Salute to the Grammys, but that's never, as a kid, all my favorite artists, it wasn't like if they get a Grammy, you know, it wasn't a thing, I guess, you know, it was, you know, so, but yeah, either way, we love him. So it was a fun time.
I wanted to ask you just about samples in general. I mean, I've thrown this at a few different producers who we've had on. You know, considering just how much the internet has changed how people dissect and consume music and how much of a culture there is to basically dig up the source of every single sample that goes into every single song, which just like, you know, there was no such network in the 90s and the 2000s. You know, you could get away with a lot more. Like creatively, do you feel like that, you know, puts more worry on your mind, limit you in any way in terms of like what you choose to incorporate into a record? Because, you know, it might turn up here, it might turn up there, you know, so-and-so might catch wind of it, that sort of thing.
You always got to use caution whenever if you're doing any creative work where you're incorporating any other elements. You know, it's collage work, what we do. So it depends on how, you know, yeah, that's a thing for sure now that you can look up stuff online, and it adds a little degree of difficulty, but it doesn't stop me because we chop and we do things, or you know, sometimes I get people to come over and play shit. You really couldn't. I feel like I could play you a beat with a sampler without, and you probably wouldn't know. If I do my job, I could probably do my style. I do both. So there's some beats I could tell you I got to think off my head. It was like one on Fetty. It was like you know, like stuff like that where it's like I could still do stuff without the samples. You really wouldn't know the difference. But yeah, it's a degree of difficulty. You put the game on. They put the game on advanced on us, you know.
Well, I mean, you know, I guess like as far as you know, from your own perspective, and also like from what you can see from the position of just a fan and a listener, Do you feel like that combined with, you know, rap genius culture as well, where every single lyric we're posting it, it's out there, we're, you know, annotating it, so on and so forth. You know, as far as like hip hop from an experiential standpoint stands, do you think that brings more excitement, more knowledge, more know-how, and more depth to the experience and to the genre, or do you think that kind of ruins the mystique of all of it?
You know, I'd be lying if I, you know, as kids, we liner notes was a big deal to me. I used to buy the shit, sit there and look at it while I'm listening to the album. I always wanted to look at all the information related to the album. And if there was lyrics, definitely shout outs. Used to love that shit. You know, I remember like Questlove always had ridiculous long shout outs on the Roots albums, or Premier would have like long, you know, thank yous. And all those little details and liner notes mattered. So I feel like the equivalent of that now, because it's not as much physical, as maybe a kid going on Rap Genius or looking whatever they're looking to find samples. And, you know, how could I be mad? You know, if it's a kid who's like interested and they're trying to get enriched and kind of get hip to study their craft, and go for it. You know what I mean? Go for it.
And I know there are some artists out there, some of whom I'm kind of blanking here. It might even be a few people who I know that you have worked with in the past who have sort of gone to the lengths to make sure that their lyrics like don't end up on, you know, Genius and that sort of thing. You know, like what kind of, I guess, creative or personal stance do you feel like an artist may be taking in that instance to be like, you know what, I kind of don't want my lyrics dissected on this website?
I mean, I respect that. I respect that, you know. It's not, I mean, I don't know if like, you know, seeing the lyrics written is going to like reveal some secret, you know, geno code of how they write their lyrics or something. I don't know. That's the next level of paranoia of an MC. But for any rapper who doesn't want, I mean, you wrote, you know, anyone can listen to it and write the lyrics out. It's not like a mystery, you know, but I respect the artist. I mean, I do respect the sleight of hand elements. Like this music is like, when I was young, when I used to listen to beats, I didn't know what was what. Like I remember listening to Tribe Called Quest albums, you know, Electric Relaxation or Push It Along or any of these songs, and those drum breaks that I years later discovered were actual breaks from records that they were mixing with samples. I didn't know that. So as a kid, it was magic. And the way Bob Power was mixing and the way Q-Tip was hooking those beats up, like I didn't know that those drums were brethren from Electric Relaxation or whatever. You know, years later I did, and it kind of fucked it up to me in a way. Almost like I don't like any cartoon that I watch. I don't ever want to watch the things at Comic-Con where you could see the desk with all the guys with the actual voices and they talk about it. And then you can see the guy's face. Ruins it for me. I can't watch the cartoon anymore. Now I see the guy's face. Like I really thought that voice was that cartoon character. And it's similar. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I don't want to, you know, so it's that same idea of like, nah, man, you're going to spoil it for me, you know? So
a lot of people in chat are laughing at that.
Know that if they know that it ruins it, it's like, damn. So sometimes it's like, you don't want to know everything, you know, the magic of it. The magic of those old Tribe beats. It's like, even when I listen to them now, I'm like, how the fuck did they put that loop to that drum so seamlessly? Because that's, you know, that's an art.
No, it definitely is. And I think it, you know, kind of speaks to maybe in a way the importance of ignorance on some topics, because you can, you know, because you know everything about what you do, you know, and it goes into what you do and what goes into the things around you. But when it comes to other stuff, you still want to be able to approach like a cartoon with a kind of childlike wonder and just be like, this is fun. This is ridiculous, you know, because I don't understand everything going into it.
No, I like to believe it. Once I see a guy making it, it's like my mind can't go back, you know. But I mean, I like, the mystery of production, and that's also why Madlib is like one of my favorite of all time, and one of the greats.
Yeah, even with his new stuff, and even with him saying like, you know, he did like the bandana, you know,
on his iPad,
on the iPad. Like even with that stuff, there's still an element of like, you know, how do you do it, you know, to all of it.
That's the thing about him that always fucked me up, was like he would really blur the lines of like, all right, did he put drums to this? Is that? Did he add that big? Like he's the master of that, of really blurring that line, you know. Because for me, like I get tired of the people like the beat nerds, you know, like, yo man, where's the drums? Where's the drum? Yo, another this, that. It's like I feel like at this point I've done, and that's why I try to mix it up nowadays to try to fuck them up. So it's like I like being free, and that's part what Madlib helped me get to that point, you know, as far as a producer, to do any style and just mix it up on them. You don't want to always have to do one thing, you know. So that's that freedom for me was dope.
Yeah, you know, that's a question right there. Like, you know, considering the expectations that are, you know, around a lot of what you do, thanks to the audience that you've built at this point, on top of the fact that, you know, you understand your craft from a very technical standpoint. How do you continue to keep things fresh and exciting and, you know, sort of new without it feeling like, you know, you're kind of assembling a chair on an assembly line? Because, you know, you sort of know the basics and you sort of know those technical aspects that go into what you do. How do you make it fun and simultaneously, you know, think of ideas that keep people guessing?
Because Knowledge comes over, and Sam I Am comes over, and Budgie comes over, Earl comes over, Evidence comes over, Seb comes over. I could keep naming names. All my friends are insane.
Yeah.
So I have a good circle of people who are madness, you know, and it's like, for me, I want to keep getting better. Like I could listen to my old beats from, let's say, 2004 era, when I was really like doing the records that I'm probably known for the most. And I listen to them, and there's like an innocence to them production wise, where it's like, they're really great. But I know right now what I'm doing, I pay more attention to sonics, to where things are left to right, front, back, up, down. I'm just more interested in that shit. Like I have a real studio now with big speakers. I never had it all those years. I didn't even pay attention to 60 dB, and I didn't even know what it was. Like I had this one kick that had a nice sub in it, and I used to use it on every beat. And so in a sense, it was good.
Yeah.
You know, but I think I've learned more. So anybody who'll say those were your best beats, I got you. I'm with you. I was also, at the time, all of the guys I was working with were red hot.
Yeah.
Jadakiss, Prodigy, you know, and yeah, but I like where I'm at now, because it's like I feel like I'm still getting better, and there's room for improvement for sure.
Yeah.
Because all my friends kick my ass when they come over.
No, I mean, you know, I hear exactly what you're talking about, because there's a lot of records, especially like from that late 90s, 2000s era, like, you know, the beginnings of what a lot of people would call that Bling era, where things in a way almost like homogenized a bit, because you had to kind of hit a certain kind of commercial sound and vibe for your songs to work in a certain kind of context. So there'd be a lot of like recycling of certain sounds and perks and so on and so forth. But I feel like, you know, today, especially in the creative lane that, you know, guys like you inhabit, hip hop has become so much more of like an aesthetic experience, you know? And in the process of that, in some ways it feels like sometimes it's more about the beats than it is the lyrics. And as a result of that, do you feel like creatively in the genre, anything is kind of lost in that process? Or do you personally feel like more responsibility or sort of like eyes and attention on you personally than there might have been at another time in the industry? Because like the beat's got to be hot, the beat's got to have this vibe, the beat's got to be this textured.
Nah, I kind of like that pressure. It's cool. But sometimes it's funny to me, because I think about it, when you work, like pretty much anybody I work with, you got to strike first. It's like, inspire me, motherfucker. Make me want to write, you know? Like I was going to fuck up the next guy I worked with when we got to the studio and be like, give me 3 rhymes. Let me hear 3 rhymes. Leave me 3 acapellas, and I'm inspire me. You know, like it's really our job first, which is cool. I'm not going to do that, but I like the challenge of it. But it's definitely our job to get the pen in motion, you know, to get somebody to write, because the writing is going to make the song. The beat, if that makes any sense, like the beat is the inspiration and it's the backbone, but the writing is what separates beats. And I've had a beat when somebody writes one thing and another guy writes another, that's a hit, and that's cool. You know, so it's
honestly,
like,
though, in your position, that might be a way to approach a project. I mean, you might be able to approach somebody with that idea and be like, listen, give me some
acapellas.
give me 5 acapellas. It
would be awkward.
5 acapellas for 5 different verses, and just like assemble around that.
It could be cool. It's like remixing. Remixing was never my bag.
Yeah.
Like Knowledge is the master of that shit. He can just take anything from anywhere,
no, that's true.
hook it up. That's like he has a knack. It's not easy. He makes it look easy, but it's the little bit of shifting he does, like on the vocals. He's a madman. But I do think it would be interesting to try that. But I do kind of like the challenge of having to inspire them to get them going. So it's not like I feel like, don't you feel like the producer was all like, what about the Pharrell Timberland era when like it was super producer driven?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, are we in an era like that now? Is everything producer driven still? Or is it really just about the beat?
Yeah.
Not the producer. It could be anybody nowadays. Yeah. In my opinion.
No, it's true.
You know what I mean?
You know, I think it matters. I think it depends on like what kind of fan you are and like what you're listening to, because you know, in some circles, the producer almost doesn't even matter, because even if you do have a distinct sound, or, you know, you make like a really hot beat, there's like 6 or 7 or 8 other guys who are like already in line to copy exactly what you did, and, you know, give that guy, you know, 8 other beats that sound like that beat. Because sometimes I am blown away by certain projects that I review. I'll go look at the liner notes and I'm like, how does every fucking beat on this thing sound the same? And it's 1 producer, 2 producer, 12 producers. It's 12 different producers.
All different producers with the same beat.
With the same fucking beat. So, you know, sometimes I am kind of blown away by that shit.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, I think that's also a cool thing about what we do nowadays, because I think it might have gone out of style for a while. I feel like what we're doing now was kind of on life support. I forget what years it was. And maybe it wasn't so cool to do what somebody like Griselda's doing.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like they and a lot of guys muscled through, and we were stubborn to the point where we made it back to be not in style, but I think it took time and some stubbornness to bring that back, I think, to the forefront, where people cared about some shit like that, where you could really like fucking them. And that's what intrigued me about West and their music when I first heard them. So it was just like, damn, this is happening right now. Like, that's dope. Their stubbornness, you know, like I first heard a freestyle he did over a beat from No Idols.
Yeah.
He did a freestyle, and he did also rhymed over a Rock Marcy beat. And it was like ringing our bell. It was just like, damn, this is like, we need to know about this. Like, and it was kind of like, me seeing somebody being stubborn and rigid with his music to the point where it was like, nah, we're going to do this. Piece to the other shit is dope too, but we're going to do this. And I think that was cool. It's a risk, you know?
All right. Well, listen, you've been here for the hour. It's been fantastic. I greatly appreciate all your time and just being an open book for this entire thing. It's been a great talk, man.
Yeah, this is dope, man. I appreciate it. You're the man.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you coming through. Is there anything, you know, you want to leave us with in terms of something that we need to look out for that you might have coming out soon? I know we talked a little bit about upcoming stuff earlier, but.
Yeah, we probably covered it all, but man, anybody who's tuned in, I appreciate it. You know, it's been a long fucking
You got any like shows or performances in person stuff that, you know, fans should be looking out for?
Yeah, this end of this month, me and Earl have a show. I believe it's the 30th in LA. We have a show. Me and Freddie are doing the Governor's Ball coming up, I think, next week in New York.
Okay, cool.
So come check me and Freddie out. Come check me and Earl. And yeah, man, back to the lab. You know what's up.
Okay. Well, stay safe.
I appreciate it, man.
All right. Have a good one.